are listening to Voice of the Fans Sportscast, brought to you by none other than the voices of the fans.
It's Saturday, the 1st of February. I'm Randy Coure. This is Voice of the Fans Canada. Hope you're doing well, and thank you so much for joining us. It's a bit of deja vu, if you will. I mean, of course, my partner in crime, Antoniou, is here. Tony, how are you?
It's so weird, just the two of us.
It is.
Yeah.
But this is exactly what I was talking about in terms of deja vu, because when we first started all those years ago, when the world was a lot more simpler, you and I it was just really the two of us, and we always had at least one extra panelist for a roundtable. Most of the time it's two, but today it's you and me, like the good old days.
Yes, throwback. Less is more.
Mm-hmm.
I remember panels like growing up. It was, what's his name? Oh my God, I forgot his name.
Bob McCown.
No, the ESPN football guys. Tom Jackson. Oh, Chris Berman. How can I forget?
Yeah, sure. NFL Countdown, NFL Prime Time.
Yeah, it was just them two, and it was like perfect. Now you've got 4 or 5 people echoing the same shit amongst each other, and it becomes really boring. That's why I really don't watch much of it anymore.
Well, I mean, I guess the Friday roundtable with Bob McCown here in Toronto, I don't know if you were an avid listener, but I sure was. I working in Markham. Yeah, you were a listener as well?
Oh, I was a huge McCown fan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like there was a time when I was working in Markham, Ontario, and traveling home to Milton, which is about, give or take, 70 kilometers. And instead of using the express toll route, I would take the 401 just so I could hear that Friday roundtable. I mean, it was just, honestly, it was really, allured me to broadcasting altogether, truthfully.
Listen, that's commitment. I mean, if Bob McCown's listening, this guy purposely put himself into Toronto traffic to listen to you. So he just ended his show recently. I don't know if you heard any of his podcast and stuff. And,
I did.
He suffered a terrible stroke, and he made a comeback after his stroke, and he was on the air for a bit. But you can see a different Bob McCown for sure. I mean, his departure from Sportsnet was strange, and obviously it's a different time we're living in. Terrestrial radio is not what it used to be. I do not go out of my way to listen to much radio anymore when I'm in the car.
Even Overdrive, TSN.
Overdrive. I'm usually home for that, so it'll be on my TV. But I'm strictly podcasts now when I'm in the car. There's barely any radio that I'm listening to anymore.
I mean, the one thing that I'm really confused about is that how come a guy like Stephen A. Smith can do his thing on, I guess it's called First Take. I don't watch American sports television, like the commentary shows, but Stephen A. Smith has his show, I think it's First Take, and then he could go on his own podcast and swear and not feel the result. And that's what listeners and viewers are going to. I mean, I don't know why the FCC and the CRTC continue to be so regimented on the medium that nobody is watching and listening to these days?
It's a good question. Well, the internet's different than, the waves, right? That is radio and television. So it's there's not as much now, mind you, if there's certain things that Stephen A. Smith is saying that wouldn't be appropriate, YouTube would give you a tick on it or something like that. It depends on who the platform is, right? Spotify is just a hell of a lot more understanding and easygoing. The the advertisement and the lineups of TVs obviously runs a little differently. Everything's on timing. You get to a certain subject, you can only bang out about 5 or 6 minutes. It's just the long form is what's more popular, and the revenue streams for that is different and in a lot of ways better for these people to survive. But Stephen A. Smith is a shtick, right? And he's
That's a
able,
long shot, man. He's been there like what,
he's
20 years?
he's one of the few. Yeah, there's obviously an audience for him. I think we have to take into consideration what time of the day he's on. So the type of audience that he appeals to at that time of the day as well is very conducive to listening to a lot of bloviating, a lot of yelling, a lot of nonsensical arguments that these people have every day on TV. I'm not privy to it either because, usually I get home around the time First Take is wrapping up. But, my consumption of it is usually what you get in clips on the internet, whether it be Twitter, whether it be Instagram. But that's on Disney, right? Disney allows, I mean, he's so valuable to Disney that they allow him to be who he is on ESPN, but then I mean he goes out in his own platform, or he even shows up on shows like Bill Maher now, and has the audacity to kind of defend Republican talking points, and it's very strange. I mean, he's one of the few people that are able to do that right now. But he's got a shtick; it works, and he's very rich because of it.
Yeah, well, he certainly is, and a guy like Skip Bayless is very rich, and the Tucker Carlsons, and I mean, I always refer to the Tucker Carlsons and the Don Lemons, just two very central to their political affiliations, and so on. Um, I have caught Chris Cuomo a couple of times, and I think that like on the Patrick Bet David podcast. I don't know if you've caught Cuomo's appearances on that, but uh, I think that I think he is really, really polished. Yeah, sure, it's only a couple of interviews, and like it's in a town hall like concept with a bunch of Republicans who are not really for Cuomo's opinion. I think that he's always right on the money with personally. Now, the whole thing about Stephen A. Smith, I mean, like his delivery and tone to me is a little exhausting for me. But like you said, with regards to Bill Maher and his how he discusses Republican narratives and is a lot more neutral. Both Stephen A. Smith, Bill Maher. I mean, that's what these roundtables and discussions should be about. I mean, I'm done with this whole partisan narrative on both sides. It sucks.
You stole what I was about to add to this conversation. I think one of the great things about these platforms now, these various shows, Bill Maher has always been good for this too. We are slowly seeing the elimination of the echo chamber.
You think
You are
so?
having slowly but surely, I think, through these platforms, whether it be these podcasts on Spotify, you're going to have whatever you're going to have. But there are some legit good shows. You mentioned Patrick Bet David, but he has no problem bringing Chris Cuomo on, and you get very good conversations, which is rare. And whether you agree with one side or another side, the idea, crazy as it is, to have differentiating ideas on the same show, talking to each other. And you're not, I'm not going to try and convince you, Randy, on how to think my way, but I'm sure as hell going to sit here and tell you why I feel the way I feel about certain subjects, for certain things, social, political, sports wise. And you're going to have a differing opinion from me. But it's amazing that you could have these platforms now where they welcome these conversations. And I'm here for it. I want more of it. Um, you see people feuding online all the time right now, and it's just, hey, come on to my show and let's talk about it. And you're seeing more people appear on it. Piers Morgan's got a good thing going now with his YouTube show. He brings on. It's a little, you know what is a little. Somebody called it a little Jerry Springerish, but you're getting, you're getting this influencer like Harry Sisson on, and he's on at the same time as a Michael Knowles from the Daily Wire, and you can get more separate. But somehow you get these guys on. Cenk Uygur from the Young, I can go on and on, from the
Oh, yeah,
Young
absolutely.
Turks,
Absolutely. Yeah.
who's a regular appearance. So hopefully what we're seeing is the elimination of the echo chamber. Slowly but surely, you're going to see more productive dialogue, and I think it's only healthy. We have to get back to that. It's so important because the death of legacy media is real. I mean, CNN's
Mm.
laying off a bunch of people. The ratings are just tanking. Even day in the morning, you see Fox's 11 a.m. show just beat The View for the first time ever. That The View has taken a back seat to anybody for that time slot in terms of a variety talk show. Um, MSNBC is letting go of a lot of people as well. So I think people are sick of the echo chamber. They really are. And
I
I
mean,
keep using that term, and it's healthy. It can only be a good thing.
well, I mean, you're saying that Fox's 11 o'clock time slot is beating the views, and uh, I'm just wondering if one echo chamber is beating the other. I mean, not that I've done a huge investigation of this, but when I'm seeing partisan uh, presentations, Tommy Lahren and uh, whether it is Alex Jones, I don't know what the ratings are for his show. It's amazing that he's still on the air. But it does seem, and respectfully, that the Republican conservative side is still watching the Sean Hannitys, the Tucker Carlson. I will be truthful. Like I do like watching The View for when they do talk politics. I mean, Sonny Hostin is way too left wing. No, you know what? Because honestly, I enjoy political discussion. Now, I also enjoyed it a lot more when Meghan McCain, a Republican, gun-loving, somebody I don't agree with. I want to hear the different discussion. I don't like it when Joy Behar has those, one-off comments and jokes and like these all like I mean that is not legitimate. Alyssa Farah Griffin, who is a Republican, you know, she's good enough. She's a little tame, but I think that there should be a lot more debate. And I'm kind of rambling on here, but I do think that it is a media out there where one side is beating the other. I don't think it is an even split. I don't think I think that I think Democrats are maybe getting a little tired of the wokeness. I mean, I think it was something that they agree with, but I think that maybe that there is a limit. Like I, for one, as you know, am on the liberal side of things. I, for one, also believe that things have gotten a little haywire. And I think as people like me are starting to avoid hard left as well, I don't think that that is the case on the Republican side. Look, Trump won the popular vote. I mean, the proof is in the pudding right there, I think.
Yeah, I'm going to quote Ben Shapiro how it's the revenge of the normies. I think what's happening is we're getting back we're trying to get back to normal. Not too right, not too left, somewhere where we were once upon a time where healthy discussion can happen regardless of where you stand. It's crazy. I don't think we are far off on what we want in our lives. I really don't. I don't think when you look at either side, I think there's a common what we want in our lives. But, and this is where legacy media, we're on to you now. This is where you're failing is that, there's a lot of talking points you throw out there that is more divisive and people are onto it now, right? And this is what I'm saying. And maybe the Trump victory is a byproduct of it. I think it was getting there before these elections, going into it. You hit the nail on the head, Brian. Randy, sorry. It went too far.
Brian?
I said Ryan. I don't know why.
Ryan,
It went
okay.
too far. Yeah, it went too far. It went too far, and people said the normies said, "All right, this is insane. There's got to be a better solution. There's got to be a better way. We have to change the way we have dialogue." So I credit people like Patrick Bet David and Bill Maher. I just finished listening to Bill Maher's audio book, and man, there are
Mm.
some things. The way he talks in there, you'd think he's nuts. He's out of his mind. He is so far gone with Trump derangement syndrome, and he is so far gone with climate change. But I was able to overlook those things and just listen to what he's saying. And 85% of the time, it's like we're on the same page. We're 100% on the same page on how society, on how we view things. So it really isn't that there isn't that much of a divide. And this is why I try and tell people every day that don't listen to everything you hear. That's not real life, right? You only base real life on what it's like in your surroundings, your neighborhood. And, I always found it to be interesting that way. And I think we're starting to see a little bit of that normality come back, and it's good. It's a good thing. I think it's healthy for society.
So, just to remind you that this is a sports podcast, but I'm still not done talking politics here. But I mean, you said something, and I wanted to ask you: did Kamala Harris lose the election because, as you say, the normies had enough, or was it because Joe Biden didn't drop out at an earlier time? Because the way I see it, I think the Democrats were either way too unorganized or way too arrogant to think that somebody else, with what was it, 73 days until election day, out of nowhere, swoop in. Yes, she was the vice president. Yes, she has a distinguished history as a politician. That all of it, that everybody is going to pump Biden, that Biden's our guy. All of a sudden, Biden's gone, and now here's Harris. I don't think Harris had a chance. I think she could have had a sparkling platform. I mean, well, that didn't really happen, but I mean, like her views and her positions could have been jiving with I still don't think she would have won.
I think it probably would have been worse for her if they gave her more time. I think the advantage she had was that it was going to be less time. So you have less time to see how tremendously untalented she is as a politician. Distinguished political career is not what I would use to explain her, because the more she became unscripted and the more she was forced to have to answer some questions, you can see where her, just tremendous amount of talent. This talent. What should have happened for the Democratic Party is maybe convince Joe Biden to step away a hell of a lot earlier. That way, you can have a proper, democratic process where you can
Right.
put a competent candidate in place. But this is part of the woke problems we have too. It wouldn't have been a good look for the Democratic Party if they had pushed, the black lady to the side and instead of giving her the opportunity, right? And that's
I
part of
don't
the
know. I
woke.
don't know if I agree with that.
The Democrats kind of shot themselves in the foot with that because because they play so much on identity politics, they kind of had no choice to put Kamala Harris in there. Not to mention the hundreds of millions and millions and millions of dollars in the coffers of the Democratic Party, which would have been taken away had Kamala not been the candidate as well. So they had all this campaign money, and it was kind of no choice. They had to put Kamala in because they could have put another candidate in there. And they would not have had access to the money. It was only for the president and vice president in that
Right.
situation where ultimately that happened. So, my opinion, the more time she would have had, probably would have been worse. She's just a tremendously untalented politician. She never had a chance. She
Mm.
word salad, the cackling, nothing of substance. Wind blows.
I
She
no,
hasn't
you
stood
know,
for anything.
I
Well, speaking of blowing, but that's another topic. But anyway,
yeah,
go
okay, easy,
on.
easy cowboy. But I mean, like honestly,
Give me your
I
opinion.
think that when I think in regards of the debate, the one that she had with Trump, I mean, word salad, the cackling. I actually there is a YouTube video of
She was good at the debate.
yeah, and I mean,
She
like,
was
where's the
she was
word
decent
salad
at the
there? I mean.
debate. Yeah,
But I mean,
give
in
her credit
terms
for that.
of word salad, I give you the 45th and 47th president of the United States. I mean, like, I don't see word salad at all when it comes to Kamala. I don't. Now there are things that she has stood for that, I mean, I just have a high level view of it. I don't know the intricacies of how far are they in there with DEI and in terms of LGBTQIA? Like I don't know. I have a certain opinion on this. I don't think it's as uber far left as uh, someone like Kamala Harris may have, but. No, I think that there was a time, especially when Biden was running for president back in before COVID started, that I remember him dangling this carrot, saying that he was going to hire a black woman or a woman. He was going to bring forth a woman as vice president, and I believe he said it on The View. And I'm like, okay, just get me somebody the most qualified. I mean, I think Kamala Harris did. Really, I think what did it for me was Tim Walz during the debate against JD Vance. I thought Vance obliterated him. I mean, Tim Walz, when he was introduced as the running mate with Kamala, he was fiery. He was sharp. He was digging at JD. That meme about the couch or whatever, and I thought he was a deer caught in the headlights during that debate, and I think that everything else just fell after that.
Yeah, he was a tough choice. Now, the consensus favorite there was Josh Shapiro, the governor of Pennsylvania. And what
Pennsylvania,
happened
yeah.
again? What happened again? Here's the Democratic Party faced with trouble, this trouble of upsetting a certain group of their voting bloc by bringing a Jewish man in. That was going to be the problem, right? I'm telling you, everything they grounded themselves on in identity politics came back to bite them in a big way. And you're right. Biden did say he was going to have a woman vice president. But he said absolutely his Supreme Court pick was going to be a black woman, which Ketanji Brown
Was
Jackson
that it?
became.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
when he said he was going to pick a black woman. So you're right. Not a lot of people quote that properly, actually. So that's good that you got it. Sorry, we took a completely different turn here, but yeah, you're
Mm.
absolutely right. Tim Walz was a tough pick too. Not very polished, not very on the balls. He was calling Vance weird, and that's just about the weirdest man I've ever seen in my life. The way he conducts himself, like he's like a
You
you
know,
know a dry heave every time you see him out there. The way he's moving around, and
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
just
you know, I don't want to call a spade on this one, but I mean, like, I'm going to, of course, like, you know, in terms of weird and saying like, I mean, when those when politicians on the right, like, I had a conversation with a friend of mine who owns a bar where I used to live in Milton, and he was like, Trump is just so polished, and Harris just seems so lost and doesn't know what to say. I'm like, what are you watching? I'm sorry. Like, look, whatever Trump is, okay, like, he appeals to a certain group of people. He gets certain things completed. I'm not going to deny that. But in terms of being a wordsmith and professional, give me a break. Okay. I'm sorry. Like, I think that he got elected because he has that moxie of uh, not being the quote unquote regular politician. Uh, to the point where, you know, I mean, I think Harris has a certain charisma as well that I find appealing. But in terms of Trump, I mean, he just goes on, and he's like, I mean, he complains about everything under the okay, and like, I don't want to keep on going with my rant, but and I can't even remember why I brought this up. Oh yeah, in terms, but I I don't know. I just but yeah, please, Tony, when you're ready to chime in, it looks like I'm
no. I don't
unpolished.
think
Like,
I don't think I don't think anyone's ever accused Donald Trump of being a wordsmith by any stretch of the imagination. But um, he's come, he is here at a time when, and it was the same thing when he won in 2016, right? I mean, there was no chance he was going to win that election. He just came as at a time, and it was kind of enough is enough. We don't want anybody presidential. We don't want anybody to be polished. You know, we just want someone that we can look at and say, yeah, that makes sense, or yeah, like talk like that. Because that's how we talk, right? That's how we talk as everyday human beings. And at the end of the day, it's just, are you going to get what you're going to tell? Are you going to get done what you said you're going to get done? And so far, in a span of 10 days, he's certainly following the mandate of the people. And it's not just a few people, like you said, a certain base. There's 77 million people who voted for this guy. This, you know, all the swing states plus the popular vote, which hasn't happened in over 20 years for a Republican candidate. Um, that's a sign of where the people are at, right? You have to listen to people. And I pray in our country here that we get a Canada First mandate eventually, and not worry about what the rest of the world thinks or what they need or what they want, because we need it here. We're in trouble here, right? You know, we can't live. I work two jobs and I can barely make it at the end of the month every time.
yeah,
Um,
yep,
whether it be taxes, whether it be this and that. That's the mandate. That's what people care about, right? Everyday issues. Everything else is just noise. It's distraction, you know. And it's just so much more deeper, Randy. I mean, obviously we don't have the time. So many different things, but I think at the end of the day, it's like listen to people and what they're saying, and they spoke volumes with that election. They spoke volumes. It's not about him, right? He's just a face. He's there. It's not about him. It's what
about
people got
Trump,
sick
I
of.
think it's exact. I'm
It's
sorry.
not
I think
about.
it's exactly about Trump. It's
Yeah,
about his
it's
Trump.
not
It's
about.
about Trump and the mandate and the position that he has. I think it's exactly about him.
it- but that's about what the people wanted. He's speaking to what the people, and it's not just KKK. It's not just far right
No, not at
people
all.
are on
Not at
board.
all. No,
I
no, no,
mean,
no.
he flipped. I mean, the Latino vote has never been bigger for Republicans. You know, just look at the numbers. Even women. You know, um, we're not hiring saints to do the job. We're hiring people who put the people first, and we haven't had that in a long time. We'll see. There's still 3 years left, and like I said, from our perspective in this country, I pray that we can find someone who can think of us first, right? And we'll see.
Well,
Um,
yeah, and you know what, Tony, I'd like to bring it back to politics towards the end. Not because
sure.
that we're following a time crunch or anything like that, but I think you know, towards the end, especially with today being the first day where tariffs are going to be applied to this country with shipping to the United States, I think that we could definitely continue after we do chat a little sports. You know,
Look
so
forward.
obviously, yeah, I mean, obviously, there was a couple of big football games that took place last week, and as a lifelong Bills fan, you were definitely glued to the TV. And truthfully, so was I. I thought was, you know, really hoping for that the Buffalo Bills were going to take it to the Kansas City Chiefs and make it to the first Super Bowl since 1994. 90, yeah, it was 94 against Dallas, right? But regardless, they have come up short yet again. And Tony, floor is yours. Your thoughts on the game?
It was a game to be won. The last couple of podcasts I was on, I said the same thing. If you have the ball last, you have a chance, and they had a chance. You couldn't ask for a better opportunity, right? 3:30 left, just drive down the field. I know it's easier said than done. That's where it was. They had it right there. This is probably the most disappointed I've been because I felt really confident. I felt that if they got past Baltimore, that was a winnable game. I know they're the two-time Super Bowl champions, and going to Arrowhead is tough to do, but I just had a good feeling about the Bills, and the uh, the injury to the defensive back Benford was
Yeah,
huge. Was huge, and obviously there are a couple of calls in that game that dominated the conversation after the game. But there were opportunities. There were absolutely opportunities there for the Bills to win the game. I thought Josh was a little slow off the hop, like the first quarter. There was a couple of missed plays that he had that he probably wishes he can get back. When all was said and done, the ball was in his hands with an opportunity to win the game, and it didn't happen. And it's another year.
W-
To beat a man, you got to beat the man. I say it all the time. The Chiefs are just the Chiefs right now, and you can't touch them.
what did you think about the Kincaid drop towards the end? There was a lot of focus on that, and of course, hey, you're a professional football player, paid millions and millions of dollars to make that catch. Uh, Maybe he catches that difficult pass 99 other times out of 100, but he didn't. Kincaid didn't get it done. But I'm guessing that this is not wide right. I'm guessing that there is just one of those things that Bills fans could focus on, that sportscasters could focus on. But are you thinking that should have been a caught ball?
I'm not pinning it. I'm not pinning that play on him. To me, I think of it like, why are you at 4th and 5? Why'd you get there? What didn't you do in the previous three play calls? Like when you run the ball back to back on first and second downs, why are you putting yourself in a position to be at 4th and 5? Is there better play calling that could have been available? The way that play unfolded is that there was just a shock two-man blitz that came right. Josh Allen didn't have a prayer, right? He didn't have a chance to even look. I mean, because there was Shakir was wide open running through the slot type of deal where he probably could have gotten the ball, but his field of vision was straight down. So, and plus you're asking a tight end to stop, come back to a ball and try. Maybe if it was a receiver, there was a chance, right? So that play was combination. Why are you at 4th and 5? What did you do wrong before that, before you got there? To just a great blitz call by the Kansas City defense, which has been awesome all year. I mean, one of the major reasons why the Chiefs finished first in the AFC despite struggling offensively all season long, winning a lot of tight games, has been because their defense has been very good. I I'm never a guy to put it on one play, one situation, one play. Even the drop ball by Andrews against the Baltimore Baltimore Ravens the week before. Yeah, I mean that was a catchable ball. At the end of the day, you get paid. You're right, Randy. You get paid to make a play. You should play it. Make it. You're a professional. However, could that ball been better thrown by Lamar Jackson? Maybe if you put it between the 8 and 9 more instead of on the ground when you're a 6'5", whatever tight end, you make it a little harder for the ball to be caught. So I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to put the goat horns on Kincaid. Um, you had chances to win the game. The play calling by the Bills in those last two games with Baltimore and KC have left a bitter taste in my mouth, right? I mean, so those are evaluations that need to be had as well. It's the ultimate team game, man. Football is the ultimate team game. You've got to have all three facets going, and you've got to have the coaches going as well. So, what did they do wrong?
Well, and that's another question, actually. As you know, Tony, I'm not the biggest NFL guy in the world, but I mean, hey, Coach McDermott has done some pretty decent things since taking over as lead guy in Buffalo. And of course, he keeps running into this monster that is Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and those Kansas City Chiefs. And has the clock struck midnight on him? I mean, are you one to think that somebody else should take over as head coach? McDermott tried, but he didn't get the job done.
I'm not there yet, but I think this offseason is a serious reevaluation. Yeah, I mean, the players like him. The symmetry between him and Brandon Beane, the general manager, are right on. They do everything right except for get past that point. So eventually, you're going to have to. There has to be an evaluation, right? What are you doing wrong in certain moments of the game that is hampering your team? Is it the players not executing, or are you not calling the right plays? What are you doing wrong at the end of games where a timeout is wasted or a timeout is not used at the right time to give your offense a little more time? Do you know what I mean? Those are the little intricacies of the game. Are you making the right decisions at the right time? Are you studying the opposition hard enough, right? Did you not see that blitz coming? There's 18 seconds left on the play clock in that 4th and 5 play, something like that. And I was listening to a guy break this down. So this isn't me saying it. This is just me kind of parroting. And he makes a great point. Did the quarterback or the coaching staff not see that blitz was coming? Could you not take a time out there? Could you not take the time, say, you know what? Let's abort this play. Let's have something else. Check your check down. There's always these little calls when you see a defensive alignment where you can change the play at the line of scrimmage. So no, I'm not ready to do that. I think Sean McDermott's a good football coach. He's not beating Andy Reid yet, and all the great ones except for Dan Marino, I guess. Sorry, but they've had their time. Right? They had their chance. Peyton Manning eventually got there. John Elway's 2 Super Bowls happened in the last 2 years of his career. So if Josh Allen is healthy, that's all you need. A healthy Josh Allen and continuing to get better. And what is a very good management team, in my opinion, led by Brandon Beane, who they do a good job identifying players, then eventually they should get there. They should get over the hump. But I do think this is an off season of real self-evaluation by Sean McDermott.
Yeah, and before we move away from football, you have to. I think that Bills Nation, Bills Mafia are still 100% in with Josh Allen, and that he is going to be the arm. Yeah, for sure. And I'm not trying to be facetious at all, but was John Elway a choker until he won those Super Bowls? And was Peyton Manning a choker until he won that Super Bowl with Indianapolis? And especially with a guy like Manning, you had that freight train that was Tom Brady. And if Josh Allen doesn't get it done, could he be considered a choker? I mean, I
No,
think the pure example is Manning. Before that Super Bowl,
no.
I don't think he was a choker. But correct me if I'm wrong.
Unless he's totally awful in these big games, which he hasn't been. He's got in the playoffs. He has a 101% passer rating, which is
Mm.
incredible. 31 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, 31 and 4. I mean, the guy's numbers are incredible in the playoffs. He just can't get over the Chiefs hump. That's it. No, he's not a choker. Those are words that Stephen A. Smith would use, screaming at 12 o'clock in the afternoon in front of an unemployed, stupid audience, and they're all going to fall for it, right? That kind of talk just drives me nuts. He's not a choker. He's not a choker. They're not. They're trying to win. I could totally understand if he's got like 69-yard passing. I don't know why I came up with 69 there.
Yeah. What's in the back of your mind there, Tony?
The usual. 69
Boy.
yards passing with 3 interceptions. Take your pick of all these off. But no, he doesn't. So I don't just. The only thing you could do as an athlete is keep chipping away, trying to get it done. I hope he doesn't lose confidence. I hope he doesn't. I'm sure he's very down after this one because it felt like it was the right time. But no, choker. I'm not going to use that word. That's who are we to call him a choker, right? Like the amount of pressure and the way he performs and what he puts his body through, and not just him, every player playing
Sure.
that game that is so hard to win a championship to begin with. That the idea that we're going to call him a choker is stupid.
And I wasn't even aware that Stephen A. Called Josh a choker.
No, what I'm saying is that's the kind of talk you would probably hear on shows like
Oh,
that.
okay.
Right? Just these
Okay.
buzzwords. I don't think he did either. I think they were all very complimentary of Josh Allen. Um, eventually you want to see him get over the hump. You want to see these players win their championships. All great players do. And like I said, Marino is one of those exceptions. But he's been there. He's been to a Super Bowl. But then you run into these buzzsaws, right? You run into these dynasties, and that's what's happening right now. The Chiefs are just they know how to win. Sometimes they get some help from officiating, yes. However, you could put yourself in a position to not make that official make that shitty call, right? Like it's also on the team that's playing as well. Your margins are so small. Why were the Bills at 4th and 1 there? Why was there tush push happening without actually
Hmm.
2 people behind pushing the tush? It wasn't working. So make adjustments. Throw the fullback behind. Put a fucking lineman behind. Really push. Change the look. Fake the tush push. Little dink pass. Someone slanting out. It. I always say it's in your hands. It's always in your hands. The officials are there. Yes, they could change the face of a game, how it looks by making a bad play. There's a bad call. There's no question about it. But you can help yourself before you even get to that point, in my opinion. It's all about accountability, right? It's all about having agency and accountability. You can't put the blame on someone else. It's like life, Randy. It's like life.
Hmm. And yeah, and I think both Allen and Mahomes are the same age, 28, 29. Who knows what Kansas City is going to be like when Kelsey retires? And one of these teams could take a extreme dip in success, and or one team can go the other way and have a run just like the Kansas City Chiefs. So uh, yeah, Super Bowl Sunday very quickly. Tony, I know who you want to win. Who who do you think will win?
I'm going to pick the Chiefs, and I don't want
Mhm.
anybody to win. I'm not a Chief hater. Actually, I've got a lot of
Okay.
respect for that I got a lot of respect for that organization and the way they stand by their players, the way they support their team, what they stand for as an organization. And I love winners, man. Like I'm not a fan of Travis Kelce. Obviously, I think he's annoying, but these guys know how to win, man. They know how to win. They might be annoying, I know, and everybody hates all this winning. Everybody hated the Patriots and this and that, but no, I think the Chiefs will win um, because they just know how to win. And I think Jalen Hurts has a couple of mistakes in him in the
Yeah.
game that could be costly.
I
But
I I think
whoever wins doesn't bother me.
no, whoever wins won't bother me either. I just don't know if Philly has it. And obviously that's going on pure hunch. So yeah, I'm thinking KC's got 3. So yeah, Raptors are not going to be winning the championship anytime soon, but they have won a large number of games recently. Tony, what was it, 7 of 8 wins for the Raptors before last night's game? They lost to the Chicago Bulls, and
Right.
the Raptors have played themselves out of the basement. Of course, the big concern is that they are losing the opportunity to potentially draft Cooper Flagg, a stud prospect who's expected to do some really big things in the NBA, of course, playing his college ball at Duke. And Tony, I got to tell you, I know why fans want the Raptors to lose. I mean, I'm not oblivious to that fact. But how can you expect them to lose? These athletes work their entire lives to get to the pro stage, and you're asking these guys, and when you're the 8th, 9th, 10th person on the roster, to throw in the towel or to lose or to suck so we could get a chance to replace your spot with this kid, Cooper Flagg. I mean, I think it's just absolutely out of the question, number one. Number two, you got to take a look at Darko Rajakovic himself. You're going to ask a head coach who has even less opportunities as an NBA player or a basketball player in general, or player athlete altogether. Yeah, coach, lose so your record could continue to go into the tank, and then so we could elevate our future and probably replace you in the meantime. Who are these? Which of these coaches actually had a chance to go through the crapper in a rebuild and see the success in the end? I can't think of one off the top of my head. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that fans, let alone media, can't recognize this. You can't expect a team to tank.
I think it's half a joke. I think it's like tongue in cheek at times too. I mean, there's no chance in hell within the walls of that locker room that anybody's saying we've got to be losing, right? I mean, the only way you can manipulate that situation is if the general manager starts trading away assets from that team in the middle of it, and then the coach will know what's going on. But you're 100% right. I agree with you. We say it in jest. I mean, I remember the other night you were at the game, and you were there where I was working, and I said,
Mhm.
in jokingly, I said, "What the fuck are these guys doing? They're ruining the plan. They keep winning now, for Christ's sakes. What are they, nuts?" But yeah, I mean,
You think it's in
professionals are
jest?
professionals.
You think it's in
I was
jest?
saying it
I
in
mean,
jest. I was saying
no,
it
no,
in
no.
jest.
Of
But
course, yeah, sure,
I think there
sure.
are fans who actually want to see them lose, because I always say, as a sports fan, you never want to be that team that's always stuck in the middle, right? You don't want to be that team that's there. You either want to be up here with a chance every year to be a legitimate contender, or you want to be down here where you're in the position to, to rebuild, to get younger. I'm there with the Penguins right now, right? Yeah, I want Sid to stay, but I want Kyle Dubas to start getting younger, start making the types of moves that he made last night. You get a first round pick here, second round pick here, a couple of prospects who, maybe you can bring them in and turn them into legit NHL players. You don't want to be stuck in the middle. You don't want to be that team that misses out that last wild card spot by 2 points, because you're sitting there with your dick in your hand wondering, What the fuck, right? You might have traded that first round pick to make that push for that last wild card spot, and once again you're screwed. So I think most people, fans are fans, right? You can't. If there's media members out there saying it, then they're stupid, right? They're dummies. They're dummies. They're just trying to cause, some hot take situations where, their commentary catches a buzz on social media and a lot of views on it. But within
Co-
within that locker room, within that locker room, I assure you, there is not conversation about tanking for nobody gives a shit about whoever, what's his name? Cooper what?
Cooper Flag.
Cooper Flag. Nobody gives a shit about Cooper Flag in that Raptors locker room, I assure you. Maybe, maybe Masai and Bobby Webster do. Maybe they're like, yeah, be nice to have a chance to draft this kid. But in that locker room, nobody gives a shit about him. I
No,
promise you.
yeah, sure. In the locker room, that's one thing. But I mean, in terms of media and fans, is what I'm focusing on. I mean, I really believe that the majority of fans and the majority of media are legitimately saying, "What the hell? This is not a part of the plan." I really do believe that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and
sneaky.
you did talk about your Penguins with Sid, Gino. That's fine, and that did happen. And of course, Pittsburgh reaped the benefits of uh, all these Stanley Cups and incredible success. But there was a huge time, of course, and clear as day, when the Oilers drafted Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, Nail Yakupov, Taylor Hall, Jordan Eberle. He wasn't a first overall pick, but that didn't mean anything until they drafted Connor McDavid. And Toronto didn't have any success drafting high. I mean, beyond Morgan Riley and Mitch Marner, that would have been nothing until they drafted Austin Matthews. And look at the Sacramento Kings. They've been terrible for all these years, and they have never been anywhere prominent since the Weber Mike Bibby days. I don't know. I think that's a real miseducation of fans, and I think they really do believe that the Raptors are screwing themselves over.
You believe it? Like
I
you actually
believe,
believe it?
yeah, I believe.
I think
I'm
there's
sorry.
different ways. I think there's different ways of building your team. I mean, it doesn't necessarily guarantee you by getting especially in basketball lately. Is uh is Paolo Banchero making a huge difference for the Orlando Magic? I just like,
I
Anthony
think. Oh,
Edwards. Anthony Edwards is good, but how far has Minnesota gotten since? Right? Like, is it Zion Williamson? You know, other than getting fatter, what has he done? Right? It's it's not just about one guy. It's how else you build a team. Scotty Barnes is there. Quigley stays healthy. RJ, there is a formula there for a team that could eventually be good, win a bunch of games, and you're already seeing it. Maybe it's a matter of adding, the sixth overall pick or the seventh overall pick to that core, and it makes you a better team. Then you can think about a trade you can make because, obviously being in Toronto, you have to lean towards trades to bring in big names than free agency. But it's not necessarily a guarantee that you're bringing
no,
in,
no.
a polished, but especially in today's age of college where it's one and done, and they're not even near close most of the time to being ready to play right off the hop. So it's a double-edged sword, like everything. It's sports is sports. There's no, my opinion is you keep winning. You develop a mentality of winning. You get used to winning. That's a good thing, right? That's a good thing. You could shock a lot of teams. Maybe they're a better team than we know, and next year they'll be better with a couple of additions, with still like a top 10 pick, perhaps, right? I don't know. I don't know the
Yeah.
answer, but I'm certainly
Well, I
not
mean, I don't
upset
know. Yeah,
for
yeah,
losing games.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not upset either, but and before we go on here, do you think that, I mean, if the Raptors had a serious foundation and if they were one superstar away and all that, do you think the championship helped allure top free agents to come here? And I've always said this, that the Raptors could not have won that championship at a worse time, because they won it in 2019. COVID happens, season shut down. The following season, they're playing in Tampa. I mean, they did not get a chance to really reap the benefits of, puffing their chest out like other teams did. Uh, I Yeah, maybe there is something. And I mean, hey, 2019, that's getting close to 6 years ago now. But do you think that Toronto still is behind the eight ball in terms of those legit cities to lure a big name?
Yeah, I think they'll always be. I think it's
You
always
think
they'll
so?
always be. I think they'll always be playing at a disadvantage. I think more so in the NBA than any other sport because money is a factor, and that tax is a factor. You know,
Look at California, though. California has
money is
crazy
very
taxes.
sure, but there's a conversion thing that you're thinking about as well, and I don't think it's that high, as high as it is in Ontario, right? But I think it's
They're
always
getting they're getting
depends on
paid.
what it
They're
is.
getting paid in
Look,
American currency. They're
look,
getting
those
paid in
players
American
who
currency.
those it's funny because those players who have played here. I mean, you think about Kyle and even DeMar, with what happened to him. They both talk about they can't wait to come back, sign 1-day contracts, and retire as Toronto Raptors. So their experiences here have certainly been good. So there's enough chatter out there with other players saying, man, Toronto's a great place, but at the end of the day, it's players think about, does being a Raptor help my brand, right? That's a very important thing for NBA players these days. Whether you want to admit it
Look
or
at
not,
Vince.
whether you want to admit it or not, it's a very, it's a huge deal for certain players that, hey, they're better off being in Sacramento than they are in Toronto, from a follower standpoint, from an advertising standpoint. So those are going to be factors. Whether we like it or not, it's going to be factors. But having said that, if you are a good team and you are one player away, you are that step away, and you have a player, let's say Anthony Edwards is done with Minnesota. He's had enough. Like there's no chance of being a champion. They've tried it, it's not working. He becomes available. He looks at this Toronto team and says, "Holy shit. If I join that team, we got a chance. We got legit chance at a championship." I think he might take it. I think there's a chance. Like you got to be in a good position to be a winning team, obviously, right? So I guess yes, I guess there is a chance. I mean, I think I talked myself out of my opinion, to be honest with you. I think if you're in a good position to be a winner, then yeah, why not?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
just
mean,
totally went the other way there.
I look at Oklahoma City is so stacked. I mean, I don't know if a guy like Anthony Edwards makes any sense at all. But I mean, and Golden State, when Kevin Durant went to Golden State, and obviously Golden State was not an alluring place to play because they didn't win until Steph got there. And but how many big pieces came and stayed in Cleveland because of LeBron James? How many people was keen on staying in Milwaukee? How many people were keen on staying in Montreal when the Expos were one of the top teams in 1994? I mean, I think that I don't know if taxes are the problem. I definitely think it's because, well, I mean, I don't know if it's about taxes. I think it's just simply about the city itself. Jimmy Butler wants to get out of Miami with a team in a state with no state tax. I think
Making 50
that's
million a year.
yeah. Uh, so where will Toronto finish in the 25 NBA draft? That will remain to be seen. Tony, of course, the Toronto Blue Jays, a team who has also had a little difficulty, if you want to say difficulty, or just had to open up the purse strings a little bit more to sign free agent talent, has gotten a very big name. And he is, of course, future Hall of Famer Max Scherzer signing for a one-year agreement worth over $15 million. And I gotta say, Tony, I'm really keen to see that first start, maybe the second start where Max is playing. Max is taking the bump at Skydome, but I mean, man, this is Elijah Wan all over again. He's going to be 41 in July. He's turning 41 this year. He is a shell of his former self. I have a ton of issues with this signing. My one main item is, how much did Toronto outbid other teams in getting Max Scherzer for it to be $15.5 million? I mean, do you think that there was a huge line to get him?
I have no idea. To be honest with you, I totally forgot about him until the signing was announced. Now, what was I'm assuming he had an injury last year because he had what, a 2 and 4
He had
record
9
season?
starts, and
Yeah,
I could look it up as
didn't look like
I
he
could
had.
look it
I
up
was
as
trying to look it up. Sorry. You know what? I have officially declared a Blue Jay fan in recess. That's where I put myself.
Tony, you
I
can't
swear
do
to God.
that. Shame on you. How
I
could you do that?
I'm on recess. I'll be honest with you. I just, with those two guys running this team, I'm not confident in it. I don't want it anymore. I think we have absentee ownership that aren't, you don't want owners too involved, but this is the time where you got to get some ownership involved and say, what the fuck are we doing here, guys? What's going on here? This is a mess. We're just, it's like I don't know. It's just a rudderless ship. 1 year you're a power hitting team, then you feel you got to get better defensively, so you take away from your power. Power is what rules the game right now. Uh, they've done a pretty good job with their pitching staff for the most part. Their starting pitching has been decent enough, but this constant shakeup in philosophy year after year, and this commitment to this analytics, and I know analytics is a big part of the game now, but I've had enough. And here you are, you're kind of married to Shapiro because he is such a big part of the renovations at the Dome. But what's
Do you think
Ross
that
doing?
matters? I don't think that really matters.
It feels like it does. And some people I know in that building, like who work there on a full-time basis, tell me as much, right? Like who are in that building every day tell me that that it's not just the baseball part for Shapiro. From a business perspective, he's I guess making the team some money, so it's kind of hard to let him go. But my God,
But
like I said, Blue Jay fan
but
in recess.
but what? Okay, Shapiro may be one thing, but why does Atkins need to stick around? I mean, like, look, I know that it's really difficult,
Great question.
uh, but okay, why did the Sedin twins have to stay in Vancouver that entire time?
Oh,
I mean,
that was
I get it. They were both MVPs, and I mean, they were both Hall of Famers and all that sort. But they
I mean, they didn't
could
have
there
to.
have been enough? Sure, they didn't have to. Why does Atkins need to stick around? I know I threw in a lot at you, but Atkins doesn't need to stick around.
Maybe Shapiro is having a difficult time looking for another puppet. I have no idea. That's why I put a lot of this on Shapiro as much as I do Atkins. But man, they're just so underwhelming in the way they talk in the media and just their philosophy for that. Now, to be fair, if it's true, and it seems to be true, unless the media just puts the Blue Jays out there as the whipping boy team in all these different free agent um, pursuits, but it seems like they come up short on some of the big names year in, year out. And so, yeah, the effort level's there. However, you're still losing. You're still losing out. And why? Maybe at the end of the day, The players just feel like I don't know how much of a chance I have for a championship here, right? Like, is this team good enough? Maybe that's part of the thought process, but uh, y- you're not gonna you're not gonna win a sweepstakes with a team from California on a Japanese player at this stage. I mean, that's what we've seen. We've seen no evidence of Japanese players being interested in picking the Canadian market, hell, the New York market for that matter,
Well, I
over
mean,
California.
there was Matsui, Masahiro Tanaka,
Oh, I'm talking
Dice
right
came
now.
at.
I'm talking
Well,
about
yeah,
right now
now, but
because
I mean,
it seems like well, it's because
uh,
the Dodgers are relevant and they're good, right? I think if the
yeah,
Dodgers were a good team back in the '90s, they probably have no problem. Um, and plus, they're paying everybody. They've got endless money. It's another problem with baseball. I think they're in need of a salary cap as well eventually because
yeah.
this is too much.
Well, I mean, and
Blue Jay fan,
you
embrace us.
know, never, never. I want to buy that City Connect black. I wonder if they still have that black jersey in rotation for next season. The city skyline there, that was just gorgeous. But okay, very quickly, I don't want to focus on this, but I'm going to throw a question out to you. I mean, why did Ichiro stay in Seattle for as long as he did? Why didn't he just go a little south to California? I mean, you had the Dodgers there, you had the Angels. I'm sure they could have afforded Ichiro's contract back then. Uh, I mean, yeah, it's convenient to for like an Otani to stick around in LA, closer to Japan, but I mean, with the way that these guys travel, I don't think a couple extra hours on those kind of birds are going to make that much of a difference.
Yeah, maybe not. I mean, Seattle is still out west too, so it's a closer
It is.
flight. Ichiro could be just a different guy. He could be all about loyalty, sticking with one team his whole career. I don't know. I don't know. Just a comfort level. Sometimes athletes are comfortable enough, um, and that's what they want. That's the preference. I have no idea, but it's not working. Whatever's happening in Blue Jay land is not working, and I know you have Vladdy as one of the questions too. And I don't think I can't see him sticking around. I
Well,
really
and
can't.
yeah, I mean that you hit the nail right on the head. Of course, there's been a lot of discussion around this part of the world of whether Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is going to stay with the Toronto Blue Jays. Of course, he was recognized as a 16-year-old kid, this future diamond in the rough, and really it does seem obvious that Vladdy has an affection for the city of Toronto and within Canada, but the team has taken a step back, and his fine he will be a UFA after the 25 season. Um, I mean, really, there's only one way to go about this, and that's to assume. And uh, okay, like to start, because Shohei Otani signed for $700 million, 765, and Juan Soto also signed in that range. Where do you think Vladdy is going to end up at? I mean, we're talking is he going to get a 10+ year deal, and is it going to be way north of 500 million? What do you think, Tony?
Probably and probably. Do I think he is at their level? I don't think so. I mean, uh, like I
I
don't
mean,
want to say
who is Juan Soto? And yeah, sure. He did have a cup of coffee in San Diego where he was an average,
right.
albeit star. I can't even remember if he made the All-Star game in his time in San Diego. And he did win a World Series with the Nationals, but he was just a kid. And he was 19. He had to wait 2 years to get a drink in that country. But I mean, Shohei Otani is definitely worth the price of admission, and you'd be the first one to admit that.
I think there's
Uh,
I think there's more tools in the chest for a player like Soto than there is Vladdy, right? I mean, other than hitting, and he has a lot of spells where he's off as well. I mean, when he catches fire, he catches fire. He's one of the best hitters in baseball when that's happening. But I haven't seen consistently a guy who puts the kind of work in to be a better defensive player, puts the kind of work in to be just a better base runner, really. I certainly wouldn't commit 10 years and 500 million to him, but that's just me. But I'm sure he'll get it. I think he'll get it somewhere. And it might be better for him too. It might be a better situation where
for
he can
him,
focus
for
for
him.
him,
But
where he can just focus,
what about the team? What about?
move on, find find two new guys to run the team with a different philosophy, hopefully, and let's see how it goes. Because I don't know how much further you can go with this group.
Well, and part of me agrees, but let's say that Alek Manoah has that kind of season again. Like the belief was is that he was improving a little bit before he got shut down, and before he was just snake bit with maybe some insecurities, or like, I mean, I'm just only speculating, but there didn't appear to be any injuries, but he was really struggling in his after, I think he had Cy Young votes that year, his second season, I believe. And if Bo Bichette, I mean, there's a lot of if factors, but it seemed that Toronto did have something going here, but they just their talent just didn't get there. Like, it seemed that Bo Bichette was a clutch hitter and just fell off last season. It seemed that Manoah was on the rise and back to where he was when he made that All-Star game in San Diego. I wonder how far they're off.
Right now, to me, I think very. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong, but I think they miscalculated that off season where they let Teoscar go, and Gurriel, that horrible trade with Phoenix. I mean, sorry, the Diamondbacks.
Hmm.
There was a bit of a personality that went when those players were traded, I guess. And at the time, there was this, we got to get rid of the celebrating and the partying and the dugout a little bit too much. How the home run jacket was put to rest
Sure.
for a bit. And having the benefit of hindsight now, it turned out to be a mistake. At the time, a lot of people agreed that the team needed to get more serious. They looked like they were having too much fun and not winning baseball games, but a huge element of their offense was taken away especially when they let Teoscar Hernandez go, and I think that affected the overall batting lineup. And I think if they could have a do-over, they probably wouldn't do that, make those moves again. But again, I think I've seen everything I could possibly see from this particular group with that core, and you have to start thinking about life without Vladdy, life without Bo Bichette, and see how it works out for you. But the problem is, I don't want it to be those two guys handling, the retool or the rebuild, whatever you want to call it. I don't want that. So it's kind of a very sticky situation right now.
Yeah. No, it is. And I guess I'm kind of wondering if the Jays had any choice but to trade those guys, because it's kind of like one of those situations. Say, you're a kid in school and you're misbehaving, and you think you can't do anything, nothing's going to happen, and then you get either suspended, expelled, or mom and dad ship you to another school, and then you change your ways. I mean, I don't know how much goofing around Teoscar does in LA, and I don't know how much Lourdes Gurriel does in Arizona, but was it at a point of no return? And of course, it would be wonderful if if the Blue Jays were able to get those guys back, because they could surely use them. They could sure use them. Tony, so what are we going to talk about with regards to the Four Nations Face-Off? I have a level of interest, and we did, you and I discussed a couple weeks ago, and you mentioned that Russia, because Russia will not be participating, that you don't have that kind of interest as you could have. And there is definitely a part of me that's right there with you. I mean, let's call it what it is. Russia is one of the top countries in the world with regards to hockey, and not having a guy like Alexander Ovechkin and Bobrovsky, and inserted any said Russian star here, and this tournament would be a lot more competitive. But it is what it is. There is a talk if this tournament will be played like an all-star game. If players get there, they're all jacked up, and they just hit the brakes, and it's going to be a 9-8 game. And, apologies, I don't remember if we actually talked about this narrative on the show with Neil and Dan. But do you think that will happen? Are they going to go full tilt? Will they treat this like the Olympics? Or are they going to let off the gas?
I'm offended that you asked that question, honestly. You want to know why? Because they're not NBA players. There's no chance in hell. No chance in hell you're going to put an NHL player representing their country in that situation, and they're going to go half-assed. You can't do it.
So the difference, the difference is, look at their effort during the NHL All-Star game. I mean, NHL All-Star game sucks.
Exactly. It's not an NHL. It's not going to be an All-Star game situation. They're representing their countries. It doesn't take much to get a hockey player motivated to play for real in international situations. Even something like this. I give all the credit in the world to hockey players when it comes to representing their countries, regardless of what you think of this tournament, the makeup of it. Even the ones who miss the playoffs and go over to the World Championships that happen, during the NHL playoffs, they give everything. Even the guys playing in Europe representing Canada in the Spengler Cup will put their bodies on the line to represent their countries. So
yeah, but who plays in the Spengler? Who plays in the Spengler?
I'm just telling you that's a hockey player mentality. I really believe they're just different, and there's no chance in hell they're going to go half-ass in this thing. No chance.
Okay. What if scenario for you that this is the 4th edition, and let's say they have the Four Nations. I mean, let's say they have it every 4 years where it coincides with the Winter Olympics, and that NHL participation is going to take place in the Winter Olympics consistently going forward. That NHL players for the Four Nation Face-Off, like in their 3rd iteration, are still going to go full tilt. That guys aren't going to pass on. That guys are not going to pass on this on the Four Nations, and Austin Matthews is going to take part for the next 2 Four Nations. So that would be in 2029 and 2033. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think they are so keen on it because it is Matthews, McDavid's, Nylander's, maybe even Sasha Barkov's first opportunity representing their country.
I'm sure some players can get away with that, like if they skip a Four Nations, but other players, there are some players who are on the bubble for Canada whose refusal to play in the World Championships last year affected their status with this Four Nations team, right? So some players will get away with it, and that's fine. I get it. But whoever you pick to play, whoever does show up to play, they're going to play hard. That's my point. Yeah, you might, maybe next year, Connor, they do this Four Nations, and McDavid is not 100%. So he's like, maybe I should sit this one out. But look at Austin Matthews. We all suggested that, hey, don't play. You've had a couple of instances now where that same wherever injury, the upper body, most people believe it's the back, where it's flared up and affected you. The suggestion was don't play, but is he playing? He's playing.
Well, yeah, sure, he's playing, but I mean, you would be uberly concerned if Sid, if especially the Penguins are in tops in their conference, had gone 50 plus years not winning a cup. Like you would be hoping and praying that Sid or Malkin or whoever skips out on these tournaments.
Well, it's one thing for us as fans to hope for something, but it's another thing to try
Right.
and convince a hockey player to do it. And look, I don't know how many times I'm going to say it. Hockey players are just different. They're just different. There's no such thing as load management. There's no such thing as, oh God, I got to sit out back-to-back nights. And especially when you put the logo of their country in front of them. And I'm not just talking Canadians. There's a lot of pride being an American hockey player now. This is the best they've ever been. And obviously the Finns, the Swedes, nothing but pride representing their countries. So yeah, I don't know how many more ways I can say it. I don't see it. I don't see a let off. I don't see a lack of effort. Can you see guys pull out for certain reasons? Sure, but only a very few players can get away with it, right? I mean, if Sid said he wants to rest, go away on vacation, I don't think it would affect his status if he's available for the Olympics next year.
McDavid.
Same for Connor McDavid.
McDavid. Yeah,
Obviously,
sure.
same for Nate McKinnon. I would say Nate McHale McCarr. Um, Brad Marchand. No, you probably won't be, but he's an older guy anyway. But you know what I
Sure.
mean.
Yeah, no, I do. I do.
There's certain players that can get away with it. Look, at the end of the day, I'm going to watch it. I'm not excited about it, but when it's on, I'll watch, and I'm sure I'll get into it. But it doesn't move my needle by any stretch. But at the same time, it's competitive hockey, a lot of great players, obviously. So I'm sure it's going to be fun to watch, and I'm sure it's going to be done well. The presentation will be good, and all that. So.
Want to give a shout out to Ben Reynolds and Ronnie Clark, Damian Flowers, the guys from the Voice of the Fans at the Mothership in Petal, Mississippi. They gave a comment saying what's going on, so appreciate y'all for tuning in. And Tony, I know I'm right there with you. I'm interested. I'm quite interested, actually. The one thing that really just gets me is why this tournament is during the season. Why can't they have? I mean, you and I, we've gone back and forth on this all the time, but hopefully that this is motivation for the powers that be. And I don't know if it's an NHL thing or not, double IHF, but get something going in the summer where these guys could recoup after killing themselves trying to represent their country. And very quickly before we do tie a bow on hockey, is the salary cap of the NHL is expected to rise and expected to rise significantly. Right now, the salary cap's at $88 million, and next season it's going to go as high as $95.5 million. And in the end, after the 28th season, Tony, the salary cap is going to go to $113.5 million. And one interesting nugget in all this is that Mitch Marner has not re-signed with the Toronto Maple Leafs. Austin Matthews is currently the richest player in the NHL. Could there be a possibility that if Marner re-signs with Toronto, hell, he doesn't even have to re-sign with Toronto, that Mitch Marner's contract will be higher than Austin Matthews? And do you see a problem in that?
I think that's his goal, to be honest with you. And maybe not higher than Austin Matthews, but I think comparable. I think he values himself very high, and every athlete should. And whether he's worth it or not, in my opinion, doesn't matter. Is Is a team willing to pay him that? He is worth what that team is willing to pay him. It's plain and simple. My opinion doesn't matter. Um, you go for as high as you can, as much as you can all the time as an athlete. Whether we like that or not, that's just the reality of it. I think Mitch Marner thinks very highly of himself, and I think he should because he's an incredible hockey player. You could argue he's a top 10 guy in the league, kills penalties. I've said it 100 times. Um, you think about losing him and you say, oh, just trade him. Um, that's a tough guy to replace. You got anybody in mind, right, that you can bring on realistically? I mean, yeah, I know you could say Nate McKinnon or Connor McDavid, but those aren't realistic answers. So you got to tread carefully. You got to be careful. I think I don't know if anything's going to happen through this season in terms of a contract negotiation, in terms of them coming to agreement. I could be wrong. I have a feeling this thing will linger off into the offseason. We'll see how it goes. Um, but I think that's his goal. I think he wants to be paid that high. There's no question about it. He's not going to take a pay cut. That's for sure. He ain't taking a hometown discount, especially now, seeing the caps are going up the way they are, knowing that in 3 years from now, there's going to be a $113 million cap structure, cap situation. Absolutely. So, Mitch Marner is going to be a very interesting story in the offseason, throughout the season.
No, absolutely, he will be.
Sorry, and I got to say, I like the way how quiet it is now. There's not a lot of buzz about it. There's not a lot of talk about it. And I think that's good for him and good for the Leafs. I credit the media for not making, usually it would be an everyday subject, but they have found a way to quash this story and just keep it quiet and keep it in the background. And I think it started by them saying they're not negotiating through the season. And I think that was a smart way to go. And I don't think that means Mitch wants to leave by any stretch of the imagination. I just think he's so confident in his ability to get what he wants. He's like, I'll show you on the ice. I mean, yeah, his playoff performances leave a lot to be desired, of course, and you want to see him get over that hump. But he knows his value. He knows what he's worth, and we'll see what happens in the offseason. But it's been very quiet, oddly quiet, considering Toronto, the market that it is.
Yeah, and Tony. So I guess one thing that yeah, if you want to take a look at the chat there, Tony. So I think that there is. I think that there is a conflict there with Marner because of the Four Nations Faceoff. I think a lot of time is taking over with the Four Nations Faceoff, and a lot of people are just so keen into that, and that a lot of people don't have and that I think it's because of Four Nations is the reason why not a lot of people are talking about it. I think as the time was last year when it was getting to Auston Matthews, I think a lot of media was really analyzing this because Four Nations being talked about all the time.
Maybe it's a factor, but I really do believe that the Marner camp quashing this from the get-go, as well as the Leafs saying we're not going to be negotiating in public throughout the season here. We're going to let the season play out. It's the same thing with John Tavares too, right? That's what they're telling us anyway. Now, are there discussions with the Marner people and the Leafs organization? Maybe there is, and we don't know. However, they've done a very good job just quashing it, putting it to the side. I think Mitch Marner actually, and it's also he knows that whatever he does in the playoffs is the ultimate importance for him. Like this is a pivotal year playoff wise to show that he can. But again, it's not going to affect what he's going to get paid. I really don't believe it because if the Leafs don't re-sign him, I guarantee you there's going to be a lineup of teams he'll be making room to bring him on.
Sure, absolutely. But I mean, like, if he does resign with Toronto, is it going to be at a number that's equal or lower than? I mean, I just don't know if Toronto has the guts, and I don't even know if it's about guts. I mean, maybe it is a legitimate position that signing Matthews to a higher ticket is going to get to a guy like Austin Matthews.
Signing Marner to a higher
Yeah, I'm
deal?
sorry, signing
don't-
Marner to like a high, because I mean, if you are the superstar or if you're the captain, or it doesn't even have to be hockey, it doesn't even necessarily have to be Austin Matthews, that if you are the number one person, that they are getting paid the most dollars. Now, you could probably chime in right away. I don't know if Sidney Crosby was the highest paid player on his team because he's so meticulous about his contract and the number 87 and everything. But with regards to Marner's, Matthews, and so on, Matthews does have to be the top person paid, right?
Well, actually, Malkin's AAV was higher than Sid's, but Sid, he had a 12-year deal, whereas Malkin, his contract came in at 8 years when those long terms were outlawed. But does he have to be? I don't know. It depends what the organization has set up, right? I mean, you have a lot of these teams who have caps set up, and you can't get paid more than Nate McKinnon. You can't get paid more than Patrice Bergeron or Zdeno Chara, what the Bruins had going at a time. That's up to the organization. But I mean, he doesn't have to be making more. I mean, I think Mitch Marner
Sure.
wants to be at the very least as close as possible to Austin Matthews, probably the same. I think he really, really believes that he is that, unless he decides to take an 8-year deal, which is what Austin Matthews hasn't been doing. He's been going 4 or 5-year deals. If you notice the trend of his career so far, so if Marner takes the 8-year route, then maybe he'll take a little shave, just a little.
I don't know. Yeah, that's very
But I don't
fitting
know.
that you say a little shave with Marner. I don't know how much of a beard he could grow, but anyway, please.
But does he have to? I don't know. That's up to. I mean, the organization has to figure that out, obviously. But I don't know if it makes that much of a difference for Matthews. To be honest with you, it would probably mean more to Marner than it would to Matthews. Just from a guy look on the outside looking in at what level of importance it is to certain players. You know what I mean? But I don't know. There's a lot of decision making. Even though the cap is going up, you still have other players. You've got to have a good hockey team still, right? It's not just eventually the Leafs have to figure out, okay, how much money are they going to put into 4 guys moving forward, and is that a formula for success for championships as well, right? The unfortunate part is, if you do lose Marner, you would have lost him for nothing, right? I mean, that's
Right.
going to be the biggest hit, where you could have maybe kickstarted the next phase of your team with acquiring assets, kind of like what the Avalanche decided to do with Brantman, who are 2 very comparable players going into this free agent period.
Which is exactly what I was going to bring up, and that trade was made before this announcement of the salary cap increasing. And I wonder, and I am guessing that Colorado does not make that trade if they knew ahead of time that the cap was going to go up. And I mean, I have no idea. I obviously don't know 100% for sure. But I think that, I mean, obviously the teams like the Leafs, so if they don't have this stipulation like the Bruins had, if they don't have this unwritten rule that nobody could make more than number 34. I don't know if it's about Marner believing that he is worth more. I think it's more so that Marner believing that he can get more. 2 completely different things. If you're going from 88 to 113 and a half, and essentially, are we looking at Marner's prime? Well, I mean, like, he's at the prime of his career right now, but he could definitely be a top player in the 27-28 season. So, I mean, if I'm a guy like Marner, I am going to worry about getting however much I can, and it is up to the Leafs to try and figure something out.
That's it. That's exactly what I was saying.
So I mean, like I don't think it's about him thinking that he is as worthy and as valuable as Matthews. I think it's because the salary cap is going up and that he knows that he can get more. Whether he is worth it in a comparison to Matthews, I think that's a completely different topic. I don't think Marner even believes that himself, to tell you the truth.
Well, we have no idea what a person believes. I wish I had that power,
Sure,
but
sure.
I would argue that Marner thinks that, hey, I kill penalties. I'm a better defensive player. Probably a better
Mm,
passer. I'm sure he's a very confident guy, Mitch Marner, and he really. But one thing he doesn't lack is confidence and belief in himself. And yeah, it's just that one little thing where his playoff performances have not been good, which is has been a strike against him for sure. But the value he brings to the Toronto Maple Leafs is pretty big. I mean, you wish he could be a more pleasant individual off the ice when he's dealing with the media and stuff. He never looks very happy, and but that's who cares,
yeah, no,
right?
absolutely.
Can you perform on the ice? We'll see.
Yeah.
It's going to be a fun off season actually with the cap going up and stuff, and there's some good players who are hitting the free agent market potentially. I can't wait. Actually, it should be pretty cool for a change.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So Tony, last and certainly not least, we are going to go a little bit away from sports, but not really. We might eventually, in the end, go away from sports, but obviously, February 1st is a very uh, interesting and important day for Canadians. Of course, U.S. President Donald Trump has announced tariffs for countries such as Mexico, Canada, and China. But with regards to our country, Tony, Donald Trump has issued a 25% tariff for goods coming into the United States. And as we may go into politics in a moment, I was wondering if this is going to prevent American athletes from signing with Canadian clubs. And of course, there's one option in the NBA and in Major League Baseball. Uh, how many American stars and players from soccer are coming to CF Montreal, TFC, and Vancouver? Uh, what is going to happen with hockey? We had speculated sort of unofficially about what could have happened after COVID, especially during the time when American players weren't allowed to get back into the U.S. from Canada, the late Johnny Gaudreau being one of them, signing with Columbus. Uh, do you think this tariff, uh, uh, the deal with the tariffs that's happening today, do you think that could be a situation in the future, and American players are going to be reluctant to sign contracts in Canada?
No, I don't think so. I mean, all I hear is that if Donald Trump was elected president, that they're going to move from the United States anyway. So I'm surprised there are not more guys like making their way over. That's what everybody says, celebrities, athletes. I don't think
What
it's going to
athletes? Honestly, I mean, let's call it what it is. Nick Bosa is a star with the 49ers, and he's all about Trump. I could appreciate the fact that there are hockey players out there and a lot more athletes. Yeah, they're the whole jerking off two guys at once, the Bill
um,
Maher line. I love it.
who
But I
said
do
that?
think that there's a lot
Bill
of
Maher? Yeah,
athletes who are
that's true.
reluctant. Yeah, I'm sorry. I think that there are a lot of athletes out there who are reluctant to rep Donald Trump because of the social media backlash.
Not as much as they used to. Just seeing the dancing and stuff that was happening at college games, and I think there is more. There's definitely more balls from people to show a side, make a statement, which is it's just a stupid thing to be quiet about anyway, in my opinion, because he's not Hitler, you know, he's not a fascist,
No.
and these are just it was stupid to begin with, but the American athlete moving to Canada to play, because I don't think I mean, I'm not sure. I don't have the specifics of so far of what these tariffs are going to do. and where they're going to affect you. But I don't think athletics and sports has anything to do with it. But I could be wrong. But right now, here as we sit here on February the 1st, day one of these tariffs, I don't think it'll be an issue at all.
Something tells me though, before we sign off here, that I think things are going to get pretty ugly between our countries. And I'm not talking about war, but is it that inconceivable that there may be a freeze on us being allowed to enter the United States? Who knows? I mean, but if I think that there is a lot of apprehension, and rightfully so, of Americans, hell, let alone of Europeans going and playing in a different country. And these kids are teenagers, some of them. And Tracy McGrady was just out of high school and starts his NBA career in Toronto, Canada, when he is when he was in Central Florida playing ball. I think, I mean, it's only been 2 weeks, and Trump is doing these kind of items here, and I think it could get really nasty. I really do. Do you think so? Do you think so?
Like nasty how?
Well, I mean, just in terms of not being allowed to enter the country. I think I mean, if there doesn't seem to be any reason why Trump or whoever the leader is of our country, there doesn't seem to be any reason why they can't go solo and sign that kind of order.
No, there's not. I don't think that's going to happen. I never take things to the extreme. That's part of our problem here as a society. We've been at it for almost a decade with Trump, and everything they tell you he's going to do or be, and it's just madness. The amount of panic that are in people. I think this is going to be a short-lived situation right now. These tariffs, until the real people step up and figure this out. There's only a couple of things the U.S. want from us, and that's to deal with our border properly and stop allowing drugs to flow into the country. Right? And
So
look,
you actually think that that's
as
an issue? So do you actually think that drugs?
Of course it is.
You think so? Like, okay, how come? Okay, so I'm not being facetious here.
Of
How
course it is.
come there isn't the
Our immigration,
possibility? But
our
sorry,
immigration.
let me add, okay, immigration, we could get to that in a second, but how couldn't fentanyl be produced in the US? I mean, like, where is that possibility? I don't know how many people are coming from overseas to Canada and try and land in the US. I don't know how much of that is happening. But this thing with the border, I think Mexico is one thing, but I don't think it's as severe in Canada. Sorry to interrupt, Tony.
As severe as Mexico, maybe not, but it's bad enough, right? It's bad enough where it's a problem for us. But the point I was going to get at is, um, it's we shouldn't be upset or enraged that a country wants to take care of themselves. Hopefully, this could be a kick in the ass from our standpoint, that maybe we should start taking ourselves a little bit more. Maybe we should find the kind of leadership that puts Canada first, because I think we've lost that a bit. And when I say Canada first, it doesn't mean some KKK Christian nationalist or
Of course.
alt
Yeah.
right scenario. No, no. Like,
Yeah.
you're as Canadian as I am. We are living the life, paying our taxes, being good people, good hardworking people. But we're coming up short in life, not because of choices we make, but because of the system that's set up to benefit everybody else all over the world that we need to take care of, and not ourselves. Hopefully, we could have that kind of leadership one day where we can open up some pipelines and become an oil country again. Relying on ourselves, relying on us, what we could do as Canadians to take care of ourselves. There's a lot of smaller countries around the world that operate like that. I saw
Hmm.
a great speech by the ex president of Kenya, I believe, who was saying, "What are we getting upset for? This should inspire us as Kenyans to take care of ourselves." we can't rely and live off Americans. We can't rely and live off of other countries. Why can't we do things for ourselves? Why can't we take care of ourselves? Why
Well,
can't we live the Canada First lifestyle? I think,
I think that there.
that's what. Just to finish my point off quickly, that's what the U.S. are doing. We can't be mad at it because that's what the people voted for. That was the mandate. 77 million people. That's what they wanted. Whoever voted for them. That was the mandate. That's what they
Sure,
wanted.
sure.
Hopefully, it's a kick in the ass for us to say, you know what? There are ways. I think there are ways that we can take care of ourselves.
And obviously, this what I'm about to say is clouded with hindsight. But how many of those votes would have stuck around if Trump insisted on not only on the tariffs, but his comments towards the Washington plane crash? I mean, I think that took. I think that took a portion of people. I'm not saying the majority, but those comments were very bold in what he said. I I think also is that as much as we export product to the U.S., as much as U.S. exports to us, that there is quite a bit going their way as well from Canada. And look, the United States, I always look at it from the travel industry in the sense that the US, you can get a very cheap flight from Charlotte, North Carolina to Chicago. And, you could like the travel possibilities are so endless and very inexpensive. Now, it is just as expensive for us in Toronto to go to Vancouver compared to going to an all-inclusive in the Dominican Republic. Why? Because there's not that many options. You can't have an influx. I mean, there's only so many cities that we could go to where it's 3 times as much, maybe even more in the US. And I mean, in terms of import-export between the two countries, Canada and the US, obviously the US is taking over. I think it is to the point where I don't know how much of a choice we had but to make those free trade agreements with, dare I say, the most powerful country in the world.
Yes, for sure. I agree. Yeah. But, maybe our flights to Vancouver would be cheaper if we were more reliant on oil producing ourselves. Just, just for example, right? Um, that's one of the reasons why it pisses me off. Like, why is it so expensive? It's easier for me to go to Cuba than go to Vancouver. Yeah. Isn't that
Mm-hmm.
weird? Should it be like that? Are there not
I don't know how
solutions
weird it
to
is. It's
that problem?
unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
Unfortunate. Shouldn't there be solutions as to fix that after all these years? Is there anybody interested in that, or are we just so caught up in this 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 empathy for others, and not looking to be called certain names that it's taboo to say, hey, how about us first? How about Canada first? There's this thing that hangs over a person when they just want their own country before everybody else gets help. And I think that's part of the problem. I First of all, it's not even worth traveling to the States nowadays anyway, because you get killed on the exchange because our dollar is so
Absolutely.
shit to begin with. So, I mean, that's even a non-factor. There have been a couple of plans we've had to go down and visit, watch a Penguin game in Nashville, or we were talking about Las Vegas, and we're like, shit, just let's go to Cuba. It's fucking cheaper. It's like
Mm-hmm.
less than
Mm-hmm.
$1,000, and it's all inclusive. And so, it's a shame. I don't know what the answers are. I don't know what the solution is, but I'll tell you what, more conversation is good, and a real good kick in the ass in our country needs to happen. I really believe it. I don't know who's gonna, is Poliev the guy? Who knows? I don't know, but something's got to give. And I think people in this country are getting to that point where it is to our neighbors in the South, where it's like, man, we need a different direction, a different look, a different outview. And if it means hurting feelings, then so be it. But we've got to be real to ourselves, and we got to start being truthful and think about what the priorities are. Because, like I said, Randy, to work 2 jobs and to make money like I do, which is pretty damn decent, and to, not be able to afford to own a house and not be able to, be leery about getting a new car, even though my car right now is, teetering and tottering and on the verge of falling
Mm-hmm.
apart, but I
Mm-hmm.
just keep putting band-aids on it. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, what are it's something's not working. So when something's not working, usually that's when drastic change comes, right? And that's where we're at right now. And we'll see.
Yeah. No, we'll see. And there's definitely a lot more to talk about with regards to uh, the political aspect as well as sports, but we'll definitely do it on another day. Tony, thank you so much. Hey, it's also rare to do this on a weekend. Thank God you were available. This was a solid chat. And who knows? Who do we need those extra panelists? Maybe you and I should just ride off, you and me. But thank you so much for joining me. We'll do it again soon.
Anytime, man. Sports and culture are one and the same. They roll into each other. So I think it's very important to incorporate all of it together, because I think I think culture has a lot to learn from sports, and sports could have a lot to learn from culture, everyday life. And I think it all bleeds together, and you can have a lot of important conversations doing it. And my pleasure, anytime.
Yeah, and the fact that we have differing views and able to talk about it like a couple of men and respect each other's views, I think that's what really intrigues me the most. For Tony Antoniou, I am Randy Coure. This is Voice of the Fans Canada at VOF Canada on most social media as well as YouTube. Hope you're doing well and keeping safe. We will talk to you next time.